Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. We are in January by the time that you're seeing this, in like end of January, and we're through the Christmas rush. Now we're in what could be potentially more of the dreaded slow season, if you will. So I kind of wanted to give a little bit of advice on how to navigate slow season, how to stay busy, and financially how you can kind of navigate it to the best of your ability too. Because I know it's hard with service providers when you're not working, you're not getting paid, right? So it can feel a little daunting, it can feel a little scary when you're not making as much money and you're not working as much. But there are a lot of ways that you can kind of take control over slow season, even over last minute cancellations, reschedules, and all that stuff. That can help you. Yes, while it's, maybe inconvenient that you maybe aren't working unexpectedly as much or whatever that looks like, but it doesn't have to affect you as much financially as much as it probably is for you currently right now. And then with that too, I have a couple things of advice that you can do to just help you from the business end as well, keep you a little bit more afloat during slow season. So if you're interested in any of that, then just keep on watching. From a financial standpoint, something that I did years ago, because I'm an anxious person, okay? If my husband's watching this, he is like, oh my gosh, absolutely. And something that I have a hard time with my anxiety is like anticipating the unknown. And when it's something with that, when it comes to work, is the unknown of, if I'm gonna have a slower week, how much money am I actually going to be able to bring in, and am I going to be able to still pay my bills and all that stuff. So a few years ago, I kind of got sick of feeling like that, especially following the pandemic when we unexpectedly were off for 2 months and didn't get paid. And that's kind of when it dawned on me that okay, at the end of the day, when you're a service provider, your whole week could change. I've had that multiple times where my week is looking that's gonna flow A, but then one cancellation turns into 2 cancellations, turns into a reschedule, so then your week's looking like B really, really quickly, right? And those unprecedented changes should not financially impact you as hard as sometimes it can. Years ago, what I decided to do was I decided to give myself a salary. And I know that can be kind of hard to do with being self-employed, especially with how a lot of our payment processors go, is at the end of the day, they just deposit the money into your bank account. And while you can do that, what I do is, well, first we'll talk about how I determine the salary, and I can tell you guys how I kind of pay myself. So again, disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor. I determined all of this myself. There very well could be an easier way or a different way or a better way to do it. I'm just saying what I did myself. So I took pen to paper and I determined how much my net income was. So after all of my expenses, at the end of the day, if you're grossing $100,000, but you're only seeing $50,000 of that after all your expenses and all that stuff, that's a huge jump, right? So that could really throw things off. So I took my net income, so all that I made, all that I actually brought home and made after all my expenses, I took that number and I put it to the side over here. And then what I did was I added up all of my bills, how much all they were, all of that stuff, everything that I needed money for, and then I put that number over here. So then I looked and I was like, at the end of the day, really realistically, and I did that first monthly, and then I divided that number by 4 because I wanted to pay myself weekly. You can definitely pay yourself bi-weekly if you want to, and if that's the case, divide it by 2. Or again, monthly if you wanted to, you could just do that. So I looked and I was like, okay, monthly, I only need this amount, whereas on average, I'm netting this separate amount. And it was thankfully a higher amount, so I knew I didn't need to raise my prices or change my prices or anything like that, right? So then what I did was I took that weekly number of how much money I actually need to pay my bills and stay afloat and all that stuff, and I gave myself a little bit more for spending money and all that stuff. And that's what I gave myself for income weekly, if that makes sense. So again, I made that number that I divided by 4, that's what I actually paid myself in. So then here's the cool thing with that. hopefully that number that you actually need weekly or monthly is a lot lower than what you're actually bringing in, right? So then you're able to build a bank for yourself. So then if an unexpected business expense comes up, let's say all of a sudden your shears break and you need a new set of shears, you can use that money for that, right? A last minute cancellation comes up and that makes your, your weekly profit, it was supposed to be $1,000 and now it's only $600. Well, if you have that bank of money, then what you're averaging yourself, you can kind of borrow from that and it averages out. What's also been really cool with this is that I've been able to give myself like what it feels like paid vacation time, right? If I know that I have like a vacation coming up and I want to save up for it so I don't necessarily have to take like a financial hit, hopefully then by that time your bank is built up enough for it that you can pay yourself still that average amount that you need. I got married in 2023 and took off 3 weeks for my wedding and was able to do that and not miss a single amount of pay. It didn't change anything with how I did my bills. I did have to throughout the year like be very mindful of how much I was actually spending on my expenses and all that stuff just to keep that controlled so that I would be able to still pay myself that 3 weeks of pay while I was gone. But most of the time, most brides are not able to take off 3 weeks of, PTO essentially for their wedding. I was able to take off the week before to kind of, again, just finish up with planning and all the last minute things. The week of, because I was on my honeymoon, and then I even took off that following week after just so I had just like a decompressing week between wedding rush and going back to work. And had I not given myself a salary that entire year, I would not have been able to do that. That's also really helpful for if you unexpectedly get sick. If you end up, I live up in Ohio, so it's not uncommon for us to get a snowstorm, so I might have to cancel my day for the snowstorm. Things like that you might be able to remake the money back in a few days, but it doesn't mess up your weekly income where you have like financial responsibilities to pay for. But like I said, that is just how I did it, so don't take that with a grain of salt. Obviously you'll have to kind of like sit down with your numbers and see what you can kind of do to make do with that. Or like I said, you can definitely consult with a financial advisor. I'm sure that someone will be able to help you figure that out. And then how I pay myself essentially is I don't necessarily have me set up on like a payroll thing. I know some LLCs do, but with how I currently file my taxes, and this might change after my salon opens up, I don't know, my accountant might advise me otherwise, but I don't have myself like actually set up as like an employee that I paid myself with, if that makes sense. But consult with your accountant. They might advise you depending on your situation. But basically what I do is I do have an LLC, and I talked all about the benefits of having an LLC in either my previous video or 2 videos back. So definitely go look at that. But with me having an LLC, I have a business bank account. So what I do is I have a business bank account through my actual bank, and then I process my payments through Square. Actually too, I have a debit card through Square as well, so I have a checking account and a savings account actually through Square also. I have a lot of bank accounts, I know. But what I do is I have my money stay in my Square account until the end of the week, and then I go and I transfer that to my business account. And then in my business account is then when I will pay myself in my personal account my weekly salary, if that makes sense. Now, at one point, Square was my business bank account, but then I went through like my home bank account, I guess, to get a business account open. I just never closed my Square one. So you don't have to open up a Square checking account if you don't want to. I just already had it. So even if you have it where Square just automatically deposits at the end of the day, then you can have that be through that it deposits into your business account at the end of the day, so that you don't even see that money in your personal account. You're not having to like withdraw it and give it back to like your Square account. I would personally advise, I feel like it feels a little bit more A, normal, and B, feels a little bit better if you're like basically deducting from your business account for that. Now, from the perspective of just like what can you do also to be still working on your business if you're not as busy behind the chair. So this is a great time to take advantage of basically just building your back end of your business side while you're not as busy behind the chair. Especially with our jobs behind the chair can be very physically demanding, and I don't know about you, but after I do a full days of work, I normally am pretty tapped out by the end of the day. So I don't really have it in me to, look at my social media stuff, to look at my branding, marketing stuff. But now when you're not as busy, you know, you're gonna have a little bit more time likely to be able to do that. This might be a great time to build your website finally. This might be your time to finally schedule that, you know, branding photo shoot. This might be a great time to just find things to do to work in your business. If you want to get into content creation, this is a great time to be able to start creating content. Things like that that are going to help you build your business that A, might help you start to stand out during slow season, so it might attract new clients to you, but also to B, will just help things that will help you still building your business while you're not necessarily working behind the chair. You're still going to feel productive, you're still doing things for your business, and it will pay in the long run. Sure, you're not going to get paid like you would like a full highlight, right? But it will pay you more in the long run. Something that I like to do during this slow time is just take a look at my business and my brand overall, and I kind of see if I had any struggles with things that maybe I overlooked in the previous year, if I need to do anything to my policies, change anything in my policies. I'll also start looking at my pricing to see if I feel like it is time for a price increase. I don't really recommend upping your prices during slow season. I typically recommend raising your prices around the time that you know that you're busier. So for me, that's normally the spring. Me being a blonding specialist and just an extension stylist in general, I feel like it is definitely a lot more common for people to be getting extensions and to be definitely going, like, getting color done a lot more in the spring. So I feel like that's normally the time that I will raise my prices personally. Sit back, look at everything, see if you wanted to make any goals for your business this year, see if you wanted to, you know, start looking into things. Slow season last year was when I started to look into, like, just in the general of opening up a salon, those types of things. So again, yeah, it's a great time just to kind of do like a professional check-in with yourself and with your business and see if there's any time to do anything. If you have any other questions, definitely sound off in the comments below or shoot me a DM on Instagram. I always have my Instagram linked below. And other than that, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.